It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of May 2nd, 2008. And welcome to one of the greatest summers in movie history. In fact, truth be told, so the week I'm recording this episode, which, by the way, this is actually coming out on the third anniversary day that Time About the Movie started. So we're now 3 full years into doing this show, which is incredible to think about, since I'm closing in on 1,000 episodes at this point, and it's amazing how in 3 years I've been able to get to this mark already. So I feel like I've accomplished something. So there's at least that. But what I was trying to say is that when I was the week I'm doing this, I'm going to be doing a talking about the movies episode, talking about the best and worst movies of the last, is not this week, but I'm starting to do these 20th anniversary specials, focusing on, the best and worst movies of the decade so far, and then later on this year I'll do the best and worst movie years of the last 20 years I've been covering films. And I say this because 2008 just so happens to be the best movie year I've seen in the last 20 years. I did like a list of all these different movie years, and you want the proof of that? There you go. I took that from Box Office Mojo's list of the 200 movies for each of those years, and yeah, when I look at this list, 2008 definitely had the most movies that I remember enjoying a lot of, and it was a groundbreaking, it had a great summer too, with a lot of really good movies, and specifically, it had one major game changer. And why am I building this up here? I mean, we're already past the mark where I usually would have shown the trailer by now, but no, we're getting to the major game changer that kind of set the tone for what the next 17 years now, since we're in 25, what the next 17 years would be in terms of where studios would go to try to copy the success of something. This is the movie that literally began one of the most notable trends of recent memory, and that, like I said, it's a game changer. This movie is the definition of a game changer.
Mr. Stark, you've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
What do you say to your other nickname, the Merchant of Death?
That's not bad.
They say the best weapon is one you never have to fire. I prefer the weapon you only need to fire once. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. To peace.
Is it cool if I take a picture with you?
Yes, it's very cool. I don't want to see this on your MySpace page. Please, no gang signs. No, throw it up. I'm kidding.
You have till tomorrow to assemble my missile.
I should be dead already. Unless it was for a reason. I just finally know what I have to do.
That doesn't look like a missile. What are you building, Stark?
I'm working on something big.
That film is, of course, Iron Man. Iron Man, of course, was the feature film that essentially kicked off a certain universe that I'll delve more into at the end of this thing. But let's talk about the movie itself, because they don't really. This movie doesn't really. The focal point of the universe that this starts off doesn't happen until the very end here. So I'll save that for the end. But But in a contemporized version of the origin story of Iron Man, you have Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., who's attacked and critically wounded in an ambush in Afghanistan and is imprisoned in a cave by the terrorist group the Ten Rings, who want Tony to build a copy of Stark's company's latest project, the Jericho missile. A fellow Captain Yinsen, played by Sean Taub, creates a device that keeps Tony alive, and they're forced to build the missile. Yinsen helps Stark escape the group from using an arc reactor to turn Stark into an armored superhero to break out of the cave, and is rescued by his buddy James Rhodes, played in this movie by Terrence Howard, and is brought back to America where Secretary Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and the company's manager Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges, is waiting. Seeing how his company's weapons are being used for evil, Stark makes the controversial decision for his company to not make any more weapons. After this happens, he uses his expertise to expand on the suit of armor that got him out of the caves to become the superhero Iron Man. When he realizes that Stane has been sending the company's weapons to the same terrorist group that imprisoned him, and they plan on using them on Yinsen's village. Stark also realizes that Obadiah Stane may be more of a threat than he believes. But, you can kind of expect that when you look at Jeff Bridges in this movie. It's just like, yeah, this guy clearly isn't going to turn into a bad guy. Get out of here with that. This is directed by Jon Favreau, who at that point was starting to become more of a prolific director. He had made films like Made. He broke out with Elf, which was a massive hit for him. Zathura was a film that was not received the best financially, but it was still a pretty good movie overall. But he never had tackled a big project at this point like Iron Man. So, of course, there was a lot of skepticism to see if Favreau could make the jump to a bigger project like this. And also, this is a film that's relying heavily on Robert Downey Jr., who wasn't really the big box office draw that he was back in the day at this point, or what he eventually will become now. I mean, he was in that comeback stage of his career where, like, he had those years where, of course, he was dealing with all the personal issues and all that. And then as the 2000s got going, started with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and then continuing on after that, his career started to rebound a little bit here. So he was still not the reliable draw that I think he is nowadays, but he was surrounded by all this talent across the board here. And I think a movie like Batman Begins proved that, you know, you put in a relative unknown in a big role like this, and you fill him around there with a bunch of awards caliber actors. I mean, Batman Begins had Morgan Freeman, Gary Oldman, Liam Neeson. I mean, Tom Wilkinson, Katie Holmes, like a lot of recognizable talent all around him. Like, you can make it, if you can make a movie work, especially if you have a good movie to work with here. And this was bold also for Marvel, because this was the first movie they self-financed on their own. Paramount was only the distributor on the movie, so there was a lot of pressure on them for this movie to deliver on those merits alone, but much more, as we'll delve into in just a little bit here. But regardless of that, it all paid off in the end, because, yeah, this is still one of the best superhero movies ever made. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is perfectly cast as Tony Stark. He is such a good Tony Stark in this movie. He brings that character to life because he's living through a lot of what Tony Stark goes through in this movie, and he can easily relate to him, this character, because he falls into the same characteristics as Stark did, and that's more touched on in Iron Man 2, which I don't think it's as good as this one here, but I gotta give it credit for doing that at least. But we'll delve more into that when we get to 2010. But the rest of the cast is very good. Terrence Howard's pretty good as Rhodes, and it really would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Rhodey had continued to be played by Howard. But Howard, of course, you know, I think there was contract disputes going on that caused Iron Man 2 to go with Don Cheadle, and that decision has worked out pretty well for that movie. But still would have been interesting to see what Terrence Howard could have brought to the role of Rhodes had he continued on playing that role. Gwyneth Paltrow's really good as Pepper Potts. She isn't the typical damsel in distress that you would think a movie like this would have. And she does actually help Tony stay ahead of his enemies. And that's really something that I really appreciated about this movie, was that she wasn't written as a stock damsel in distress character. She contributes to the movie in general, and she contributes to the story. Jeff Bridges, I think, is great as Obadiah Stane. I mean, he really is a very fun villain in this movie. And yeah, like I said, he's an obvious villain, but at times he is really fun. He has some of the most memorable lines in the movie, like that. I love this. My favorite line of his is when he's talking to Ralphie from A Christmas Story, who's a scientist, and he's got that book. It's literally Peter Billingsley, because of course this is a Jon Favreau production, and Favreau, Vaughn, and Billingsley all work with each other on several projects. And my favorite line from him is when he's screaming at the top of his lungs, "Tony Stark built this thing in a cave with a box of scraps," and the scientist is just like, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm not Tony Stark." And Jeff Bridges is just like, "Of course you're not." And like, I know I completely botched that line, but you get the idea. That the way it's read by Bridges. I mean, Jeff Bridges is a great actor, but people forget that Peter Billingsley can act his ass off too. I mean, this is a kid that's not just Ralphie. He's done a lot of other movies besides Christmas Story and all that. But the writers do a good job of contemporizing the origin of Iron Man without taking it over the edge and changing the origin story with unnecessary things like some other origin films tend to do, as well as coming up with that great mix of action and comedy. The action sequences are so well done, and the film has a lot of those really good one-liners scattered across the film that just makes it so work as well as it can, and the visual effects are amazing to look at. This is actually one of the last things Stan Winston did before he passed away. He worked on the metal suits, he worked on the rubber that was used in the film, and helped to work on the Iron Man costume with this mix of CG, and his company did a pretty good job of handling that, as well as a lot of the other visual effects held into the film. The action is so well done. The final climax of the movie, I think, is very well done. There is a lot of tension. There's a lot of things that make it work. It feels very realistic. Like, something like this could actually happen in real life. And that's one of the things I really was impressed by this whole thing. But, nevertheless, we got to talk about the biggest thing that this movie was setting up for. I mean, when most people went to go see this movie, they were not expecting it to be anything more than just another typical superhero movie. It's like, okay, we've seen this done before time and time again. They're going to go ahead, and of course, we're going to get some kind of no, actually, no. I think this was actually one of the first real superhero movies that actually did the post-credit sequence with actually building something for something. Because we've seen post-credit sequences in other superhero movies, in other movies, you know, Masters of the Universe, Buckaroo Banzai, a couple of X-Men movies had mid-credit sequences that really didn't amount to anything. But what they set up here at the end of Iron Man is still something that was nowadays we look at it, it's just like, okay, they had a good idea what they were doing, but when they set this up back in May of 2008, you have no idea how much pressure there was to deliver on what they were asking for with this post-credit scene.
Jarvis.
Welcome home, son.
I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you've become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Who the hell are you? Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
8 words. I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. 8 words that we thought at the time was cute. Okay, very ambitious of you to think that this is going to be something that you're going to actually do. Because they've been talking about doing these other movies for a while now, setting up all these different movies to set up into this one big epic adventure that they were going to put together. And even back when this summer happened, there was a lot of skepticism that they were actually going to do it. But the plan was to simply do this. Iron Man was supposed to be the first film of this new universe, and then we were supposed to get the Hulk, the new Incredible Hulk, which comes out later in the summer, and then it was going to be Thor. Then it was going to be Iron Man 2. No, it was Iron Man 2 next, and it was going to be Thor in 2010. Then 2000, I think it was, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was Thor in 2009, Captain America in 2010, and then it was all going to lead up to the Avengers in 2011. Of course, Iron Man became the successful film, and so they added a sequel to that, and so they moved around the dates around. But the Incredible Hulk not underperforming, everyone thought that it was going to put a damper on what they were going to do with this, but what really changed the whole thing was when Disney came in and bought Marvel. I think when Disney bought Marvel the following summer, it essentially said that, oh yeah, they're doing this. And sure enough, what followed over the next 4 years was a ride of very good movies all across the board. I mean, this movie's great. The Incredible Hulk's a great movie. Iron Man 2, not as good as the first one, but still pretty good. Thor, probably the weakest of the bunch, and Captain America, which is one of those ones I like to watch all the time. And then, of course, that led into the Avengers, which the Avengers became, and the Avengers, of course, became the movie that everyone thought wasn't going to happen, and then all of a sudden it did, and it turned out to be one of the great cinematic experiences that you will ever have. And the rest is history. I mean, they spent the rest of that decade of the 2010s at Marvel, like, becoming the star, the big focal movie of the year for the next 10 years, up until the COVID year. I mean, everyone was always building up, like, what was going to happen next, because they were really delivering, and there were more hits than misses in the MCU before COVID. Nowadays, it's more misses than hits, but, it is what it is, and I think there's a lot of problems with the MCU in general, which we'll delve into as we go along on this journey here, but, yeah, it's crazy to think that this movie, this one little sequence that they did, a lot of people didn't think they were going to do anything with it at first, but then of course all of a sudden when you get a person, somebody like Kevin Feige, and you get a major company like Disney who's willing to spend billions of dollars to accomplish whatever you want to do because they really do believe in what you're trying to do. I mean, that tells you what they were, is that they were really believing that this was going to work, and hopefully it was going to pay off in something big. And sure enough, it eventually did. We got a lot of great movies out of the MCU since this launched, and yeah, you can't say that this was a failure by any means necessary. It was an experiment that worked and did very, very well. And naturally, when Disney purchased Marvel for $4 billion, I think it's definitely paid off with it, because many of the movies that they made have made that back and then some. It was one of the smartest moves Disney could have made at that point. But going back to Iron Man, because I've spent a lot of time talking about this, Iron Man really is one of the best superhero movies ever made because of its great cast, a great contemporized origin story, great visuals, great action, just overall fun. It's a fun, solid movie-going experience, and it's the movie that not only helped to relaunch Robert Downey Jr.'s career and put him back into superstardom in a year where he just had a great, great year, because he would have another movie coming out this summer that was just as good, if not just as good as this. But it puts the Marvel Cinematic Universe on the fast track. I mean, this was the movie that did it, and nobody was really expecting it to. But lo and behold, look at what happened. So yeah, that's Iron Man, and you know, of course, it's the summertime, so you're gonna have movies that are gonna try to counter-program you in any way they can. Here's Sony's attempt to counter-program Iron Man. Here's Maid of Honor.
Tom has his girlfriends.
Oh, I think I picked up yours by accident. Sorry about that.
Gloria.
Tom has his guy friends.
Not gonna be able to play today on my back. Come on, Gary. If we don't have a fourth, we're gonna end up with Tiny Schwartz guy. Sorry. Hey, what's happening? You nothing? No, our friend Paul with longer shorts is coming.
But he only has one best friend.
I'm not going to another one of your father's weddings.
This is the last time, I promise.
You don't act on that pretty soon. I'm gonna make her my number 6.
You got the best of both worlds, Tom. It's true. I can sleep with whoever I want, but Hannah's been the one constant in my life.
I'm going to Scotland on business for 6 weeks.
6 weeks? What am I gonna do without you?
I think you'll be fine. Hello?
Hey, how's the weather in England?
I'm in Scotland.
So it's sunny.
It's 3 in the morning.
So it's dark.
I'm gonna go back to sleep now.
Oh, I hate Scotland.
What's the matter with you today? Maybe there's more to life than just sleeping around. I don't understand.
I'm not following.
I'm gonna tell Hannah. When she gets home, I'm gonna tell her that I want to be with her.
I'm engaged. He proposed, and I accepted.
Wow, it's beautiful.
If you're getting married, I'd expect to be your best man. Tom, will you be my maid of honor?
You're maid of honor. What is it with you, man?
Oh, screw you. Did I forget to mention that this was directed by the same guy that gave us such memorable classics as Leonard Part 6, City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold, and Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles? Okay, you already want me to move on to the next movie, but sadly, this is what we have to deal with here, folks. Patrick Dempsey is a lifelong playboy who falls in love with his best friend, played by Michelle Monaghan, only to have her get engaged. She asked him to be his maid of honor. Which, if you're getting married 6 weeks after you meet somebody, that should be a red flag right there. I don't understand these romantic comedies where, you know, they have to get married immediately. This isn't like Aladdin, where there was literally a law in place where Jasmine had to get married to somebody before her 18th, I think it was her, what was it, her 16th or 18th birthday? I can't remember what it was, but she had to get married before a specific birthday, and there was only a couple of days for her to do that. And, I mean, in this movie, it makes no sense to do that whatsoever. Like, this is, if you're not already turning away from this movie at this point, then clearly I can't help you with this, because, my God, this movie is absolutely horrible. And of course, this is being made because Patrick Dempsey found newfound fame on Grey's Anatomy, playing McDreamy, like the stupidest name ever, on a show that's still going on even to this very day. And this movie sucks. This is a terrible movie that wastes too many good talented actors. I've seen Patrick Dempsey be good and stuff, Michelle Monaghan deserves much better than this. You got Sidney Pollack in this movie, the Academy Award-winning director, and you know, he's made great movies in the past, and this was the last thing he did before he died. The last thing he did before he died, and he's playing a father he's playing Patrick Dempsey's father, who's entering his 6th wedding with so many different women in this movie. Like, this movie sucks. I don't have anything else to say, but this is a terrible movie. I don't buy into anything that's going on whatsoever. The comedy is lame. Did you expect anything less from the same guy that made Leonard Part 6? Really? So yeah, not much more to say about that one. I mean, that one is too easy to pinpoint that, yeah, this is a terrible film. So, let's go ahead and turn it around with our last film here. We have a really good film to end this show on. Let's take a look at Son of Rambo.
Last requests are just skills.
From Sundance to New York, film festival audiences are cheering for the biggest British comedy of the year.
Son of Rambo, take one. Click.
Son of Rambo is a British Stand By Me.
Action!
One of a kind.
I am the Son of Rambo!
It makes you feel like a kid again.
This has been my best day of all time.
Rated PG-13. Starts Friday in select theaters.
Yeah, I remember in the 1980s when everyone was so peeved about Rambo because kids were watching this and everyone thought that they were going to turn into violent monsters. Who would have guessed that that Rambo would have made for an uplifting coming-of-age comedy in which you have a young boy during Margaret Thatcher's Britain, which is I guess a thing in this world, but it's a coming-of-age story about 2 schoolboys, one of them played by Will Poulter, who would later go on to star in We're the Millers, and their attempts to make an amateur film inspired by First Blood. This is directed by Garth Jennings, whose last film we looked at of his was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and he also did Sing and Sing 2, which surprisingly are really good Illumination movies, one you should definitely check out. And this is another really fun film, too. It's a really good, fun, lighthearted comedy that works really well because you do buy into the characters played by Bill Milner and Poulter, and it's a really fun movie. It's about these 2 kids who are watching this, and they're not watching First Blood and thinking like, okay, we need to go be extremely violent. No, they want to make their own movie version of this, and they're kids making these little movies, little home movies, and it plays very well. It's a very nice, fun little film, and I don't think anybody would have expected that from a film based off of Rambo of all things, and it's a really good movie. It's a really fun, lighthearted comedy, very impressively put together, a well-made film. A very underrated film. I don't think a lot of people really talk about this one, but it's a really good film that definitely deserves a lot more attention than it gets. It's one I recommend checking out. It's a really good movie. It's a really fun film overall. It's great. Son of Rambo, I highly recommend it. Son of Rambo. Rambo!
I don't want to marry you, Joy, but I'm leaving you. Well, I mean, this is my place, so technically you would be the one that has to leave.
Joy just got dumped.
Jack, you're fired. Don't get me wrong, you're like a son to me.
Dad, I am your son.
Jack just got canned.
There's the one place where you can step up and be a man. Community college?
Where can you go? You can forget all your troubles.
Vegas.
Vegas!
They were 2 strangers
I'm not usually this much fun!
looking for a night to remember. What they got was a morning after they'll never forget.
Well, I'm gonna need a divorce.
Absolutely!
We'll always have Vegas.
That was my quarter!
I put the quarter in the slot.
What's mine is yours, baby. We're married now, remember?
I am freezing the $3 million and sentencing you two to 6 months hard marriage.
Objection!
Welcome home, sweetheart.
If you want me to report that you're both working on your marriage, you're gonna actually have to do that.
Marriage is hard.
Almost done.
Men and women are not meant to coexist. Oh, yeah. This is happening. By the way, it's your day for dishes.
20th Century Fox and Regency Enterprises present.
If I can get Joy to be the one to end the marriage,
Not only would you get out of the marriage,
You will also get the full $3 million.
Hi. Would you mind if we waited in here until the locksmith comes?
there is a hot girl party going on in my living room.
dude, it's a trap. No, this happens. No, it doesn't happen.
A comedy about two people with 3 million reasons to stay together.
She doesn't seem so bad, Uncle Jack.
For better.
Can you believe this?
No, you're falling for your wife, you idiot. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Or for worse.
I need to look real so to see like she was beating you. Jack, what happened to your face? I'm supposed to line up the hand towels just so, and I didn't do it. I'm sorry. I deserve it.
What happens in Vegas?
So that trailer kind of shows you the pros and cons of this movie. The pro is it's a really good plot overall. I wouldn't say clever, but it's a really good plot where you have Ashton Kutcher and Cameron Diaz as a couple who get married in Vegas after a drunken stupor. And as they're about to go their separate ways, they put a coin in and they win a casino jackpot of $3 million after it's all said and done. But their simple plan to get a quick divorce and divide the money is complicated by the divorce court judge's ruling, who basically tells them they have to spend 6 months together in order to get the money. And so what follows next is a series of events where, you know, they have to get together, they have to come together in the end. And then, yeah, eventually they're going to fall in love with each other. I mean, it's a basic standard plot right there for a romantic comedy, and I think we've seen this done to death before so many times. What's really interesting about this movie in general is that you see the notable names in the cast of this movie. I mean, Cameron Diaz, Ashton Kutcher, Rob Corddry, and Lake Bell are the main names in this film, but you see notable names like you see Dennis Miller as the judge. You see Queen Latifah playing the doctor that's supposed to watch these two. You've got Treat Williams playing the father of Ashton Kutcher's character. Dennis Farina's also in the movie. Deidre O'Connell, who we haven't seen in a long, long time. I mean, there's a lot of notable names in this movie all across the board. Jason Sudeikis you see in there. Like I said, there's a lot of notable names all throughout the movie. Billy Eichner is in the movie. This is one of his early film roles that he was in. And yeah, it's a very standard plot for a romantic comedy, but in terms of Ashton Kutcher's romantic comedies overall, this is probably one of the better ones, and it's because he and Diaz have a lot of good chemistry together. A romantic comedy can be good if your two leads can work off each other really well, and both of them work off each other very well. You do like them when they don't like each other, and when they do eventually come together, it works. It works very well. I would say it's one of my favorite Ashton Kutcher rom-coms. If I had to pick the best Ashton Kutcher rom-com, it'd probably have to be No Strings Attached, the one he did with Natalie Portman, which was directed by Ivan Reitman, which is still a couple years away, but that was one of that's probably my favorite one that he's ever done. But this is definitely right up there, and I think it works because the chemistry works very well. There is such a really good cast in here that can level this mediocre material into something really funny. Rob Corddry and Lake Bell have a nice little subplot going on here, and it's just kind of fun to see all these notable comic names in this movie, like Treat Williams, Dennis Miller, and Queen Latifah in these supporting roles where they wouldn't usually be that way overall, and I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun. Is it a great movie? No, it's definitely a very flawed film, and not every joke in it works overall. And it is pretty standard overall in terms of its plot. But like I said, a good romantic comedy can work even if the script is terrible if your two leads work off each other really well. And I thought they both worked off each other very well here. So yeah, I recommend What Happens in Vegas if you know what you're going into firsthand. It's definitely one of the better Ashton Kutcher rom-coms. But then again, when you're thinking of stuff like A Lot Like Love and also My Boss's Daughter, it's not really saying a whole lot in general. But yeah, this movie shockingly beat out the next film we're going to talk about here. And shockingly, because not only is the next film we're going to talk about here a pretty good movie, but it's a film that was severely overlooked at the time of its release. And I think you know what I'm talking about. If you remember this particular weekend, let's talk about the Wachowskis' Speed Racer.
Seems to be interested in only one thing. All he talks about, all he seems capable of thinking about, is automobile racing.
Racing's everything. For my family, it isn't just a sport. It's way more important than that. It's like a religion.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver? Then sign that contract.
He's just trying to scare you, son.
What you do behind the wheel of a race car has nothing to do with business.
You walk away from me, you walk away from this deal, no matter how well you drive, you won't win, you won't place. I guarantee you right now, you won't even finish the race.
You think you can drive a car and change the world? It doesn't work like that.
Maybe not. But it's the only thing I know how to do, and I gotta do something.
Move it, Speed. It's getting ugly out there.
Wasn't my idea.
Oh, no?
It was his.
He's going to be very good.
No, he's going to be the best, if they don't destroy him first.
That's funny. That ending dialogue from Matthew Fox pretty much sums up how the movie was seen in theaters at the time. You know, it's going to be very good. No, it's going to be the best if they don't destroy it first. But you could make a proper assumption of Warner Brothers. Maybe not back then, but certainly nowadays. But yeah, every once in a while, every decade or so, there's that one movie that comes out where the filmmakers who make this movie basically say, you know, let's take this to the extremist level that we can. Let's go ahead and put a lot of effort into the production. And, you know, it's going to be a highly ambitious movie, and it may not appeal to a lot of people. And it's going to be seen as an overblown mess at the time, but give it time to really grow, and it will become one of those movies that is just so impressively massive and grand, and what they're able to accomplish here. You know, in the 1980s, we had that with the Robert Altman Popeye movie, which was not a big hit when it came out, but has gone on to become a massive cult hit, is with a lot of high ambition in the production value. Dick Tracy was like that in 1990 with Warren Beatty. We just had that recently with Barbie. I would even throw in Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. Really good movie with a lot of high ambition and production value that wasn't seen as the critical and financial success that they were expecting. This is one of those films that's definitely in that category, and probably one of the best examples of that overall, because, man, this is such a good, fun movie overall. The plot of this film is that you have Speed Racer, played by Emile Hirsch, who's an 18-year-old automobile racer who follows his apparently deceased brother's career, choosing to remain loyal to his family and their company, Racer Motors, which causes difficulties after he's refused a contract that E.P. Arnold Royalton, owner of Royalton Industries, offers him. And, yeah, if you've ever seen the Speed Racer cartoon, it's pretty much that, except what a highly ambitious film that this film does. This movie is absolutely amazing. If I have to pick the Wachowskis' best movies as directors, Bound would probably be the first one overall, but Speed Racer is definitely second place. I mean, this film is amazing. In the time that this movie has come out, it has definitely gotten the proper respect it has deserved. It's been growing over time, because it was just bad timing to release this movie in the sandwich that was Iron Man, and in a couple weeks we'll have Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And not only that, the next week there's Chronicles of Narnia, and then Sex and the City comes out later in the summer, Kung Fu Panda, Wall-E. Yeah, this movie was clearly not going to make its money back with all that, but with all those movies sandwiched together. I mean, it's kind of like what happened in the previous November with Fred Claus. It got lost in the shuffle with films like B-Movie and Enchanted and Beowulf all coming out around the same time. And this film definitely got lost in the shuffle, but man, I'm so happy to see this movie getting the renaissance it deserves, because yeah, it's an incredible, incredible movie. From a visual perspective, it's an amazing looking film. It looks like a modern upgrade of the cartoon series, and allows for these incredible and unique action sequences that are so well done. They don't feel like something like a ripoff of Robert Rodriguez's Spy Kids, especially with Game Over. Like, there's just such incredible, unique sequences and set pieces. I mean, the climax of the movie, the big race in the film, if you look at the colors in the scene alone, I cannot believe this has not gotten a proper 4K release. I mean, I don't know if it has gotten it since then, but as far as I know, there has not been an official 4K Blu-ray release of this movie, and I think it's a shame, because I can only imagine how vibrant the colors can look in this movie. Not to mention, the action looks amazing when he's going down that big slope in the end of the movie, in the clip that I had when doing my original review for this, and just such a great climax of that movie. And the music is really great too. Michael Giacchino, very underrated score of his. He does such a great job of handling this, and it's just such an incredible scene. I wish I could show it to you, but YouTube and copyright restrictions. So yeah, that's something that sadly I cannot show off here, but it's definitely something you should look for. You can easily find it online, Speed Racer's the final race scene. But I'll talk more about that in just a second, because man, it's definitely something more to talk about. But the casting overall is really good. Emile Hirsch, I think, fits nicely into the role of Speed Racer, making the character his own, while also fitting right into the expectations of what a live-action representation of the character should be. Christina Ricci is very good in here. She has a lot of great chemistry as Trixie. John Goodman and Susan Sarandon are really good playing Speed's parents, and they get their moments to shine in the movie. There's great moments where they have a lot of really good funny moments, but they can also have softer moments with Speed, lighter moments that are very, very good. Matthew Fox is great as Racer X, and I'm sad to see that he did not become that great actor he could be after his work on Party of Five, and especially with Lost, because, he looked like he was on his way to superstardom, and then he just kind of faded away after Lost ended. It's just like, what happened to this dude, man? Like, what is the last thing he's done that I can think of that is after Lost ended? I can't really figure it out, but it's a shame because, yeah, he's one of those guys that I've definitely been a fan of over the years, and I was really hoping he'd become the next big movie star. If there's one weak link in the movie, it's Scott Porter, who plays Speed's older brother before he becomes Racer X. And it's not that he's bad or anything, but he just doesn't get a whole lot of screen time overall, and he feels kind of pointless in this role. Like, I mean, I get it. He's supposed to be a younger version of Racer X, and you can't really get Matthew Fox to be the younger version of himself. I mean, we didn't have that technology that we have nowadays where we can usually take older actors and make them young again. But, I don't know. I thought his role was kind of pointless early on in the movie. But the runtime of the movie doesn't bother me all that much. Should this have been over 2 hours long? No. But for what they presented with it, I never got bored with it. It never felt like there was too much filler to fill up the time that they had. They tightened it up just enough to keep the enjoyment factor going all across the board. And there's that thrill factor that a good action adventure should do, like Indiana Jones, or Batman, or even the best Marvel Cinematic movies. Like the stuff that happens in this movie, when you get so invested in what's going on, you want the hero to succeed on his mission so much that you start cheering on the events of the movie as the people in the movie are doing too. And again, going back to the climax of the movie, that moment when Speed is racing the first place and the Speed is in the end, and you're seeing the race cutting in with moments of the film showing off what racing means to him and his family, and the race comes to that close. The editing is so well done, and it plays to the intensity and the thrill of the finale. This is a visually gorgeous looking scene that is very well done. And yeah, I should point out though, if you have photosensitivity issues and you don't like flashing lights, I'd probably say stay away from it, because there is a lot of that in this movie, but for me, it was worth it, because man, I started cheering again when I watched this movie again for the first time a couple years ago, and man, this scene holds up incredibly well and has gotten a lot better over time. This movie is much better than it was back in the day. Like, this thing has gotten a lot better over time. It's a great movie. It was way ahead of its time. A lot of it really works well. It can be really stupid at times. Yeah, the kid and the monkey gets a little bit distracting real quickly, and again, that's part of the TV series, but you could have at least made them more appealing and more, instead of just annoying. But then again, they were also kind of annoying in the cartoon as well, so maybe they were onto something there. But it's that fun kind of stupid you can get behind, because there is a lot of effort being put into it. You can see the ambition from the Wachowskis. It's legitimately intense, and also offers up some really good emotional, quiet moments where the actors get a chance to shine. Like I said, John Goodman and Susan Sarandon are pitch perfect in this movie, because they show off the comedic sides of the performances in this, but they can also play very dramatic roles, and it never feels like they're overstaying their boundaries overall. It doesn't feel forced in. The actors are making the characters work. The visuals are gorgeous. The fun factor is all over the place. This is just a solid, fun ride all across the board. It's like another movie, Tron, that I should have mentioned beforehand. It's like the Tron of its time. It's a movie that was way ahead of its time, but has gone on to have this big enough following to get the sequel that they were expecting for so many years. We're going to get to that in a couple of years' time. And we got a third one coming out this year. and even a popular theme park ride overseas that's going to hit that has hit the U.S. The Tron Coaster of the Magic Kingdom, which looks like a ton of fun. I don't think the cult following of Speed Racer is ever going to get to that point, but I think it's on that same level as Tron is. I think this film deserves a reappraisal. I think it should get a 4K release so people can experience the majesty of these visuals, because it's still impressive to look at. This is a fantastic movie that has gotten better over time. Hopefully more people will realize that this movie has much more merit to it and should be looked back on as such. It's a great, fun ride. It's my second favorite Wachowski film of all time, and it's one I can't recommend this one enough. If you have not seen Speed Racer, do yourself a favor and see Speed Racer. If you like Popeye, if you like Tron, if you like Dick Tracy, if you like Barbie, if you like Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, these visually ambitious projects, Speed Racer is one you should definitely check out, and you will not be disappointed by it, not even close. So with all that said, let's go ahead and wrap this up with a film that actually opened up last weekend, but I just realized that it was coming out this weekend in wider release. David Mamet's latest film, and that is Red Belt.
Give it a pass.
You draw the black marble, you're either going to have one arm tied to your body or potentially both arms tied to your body.
Stole my idea.
You can't copyright an idea.
He has a document of his training regime that he's used for many years.
You want to make some money? Fight on the undercard. It's worth $250,000.
Competition is weakening.
What about the fighter's family? What do they eat?
The fight is fixed. We pick who gets the white marble. Who gets the pass tonight? You.
I'm ending the charade. Mr. Flair, I need to talk to you.
You think you're going to the ring? You're going nowhere, Mike. You're going nowhere.
There is no situation you cannot escape. You know the escape.
I mean, David Mamet is a guy that whenever he makes a new movie, I'm right there, man. I think he's one of those great writers. I mean, one of my favorite movies of his is, of course, Glengarry Glen Ross. And, this is his first film he had done since Spartan, which was not the big critical or financial hit overall, but this is definitely a return to form for him. It stars Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's a martial arts master who struggles to achieve financial stability without compromising on his own strict set of morals, and must determine if the latest opponents in his career are too good to be true. And you see there's a cast that includes Alice Braga, Randy Couture, Joe Mantegna, Emily Mortimer, David Paymer, Rodrigo Santoro, and especially Tim Allen in a much different role than we're used to seeing him in. I mean, we're used to seeing him as a comedic actor, Home Improvement, the Toy Story movies, the Santa Claus, but here's a chance for him to go in and play a more dramatic role, and while he's not in it a lot, he does leave a lasting impact here that makes you think that, this guy could act. If you give him a more dramatic role, I mean, he could probably make it work overall. I don't know why nobody's even given him a chance to star in more dramatic roles in general, but Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think this is a great opportunity to see what he can do as a leading actor, too. He would later show this in 12 Years a Slave, which he's great in that movie. I mean, he's proven to be a great actor over the years, and the film really is well done. I think it is probably my favorite David Mamet film that he's done since Glengarry Glen Ross. And Glengarry Glen Ross is a masterpiece, and while I don't think it's up to that level, it's definitely a lot better than some of the other Mamet movies that he's done since then. I mean, it's definitely better than something like, State of Maine, Heist, The Winslow Boy. Spanish Prisoner maybe comes close to it, but then again, he only wrote Glengarry Glen Ross, and maybe I'm getting my information wrong here, because I thought he directed it too, but no, that was James Foley that directed Glengarry Glen Ross, but he's made some good stuff since then. I mean, like I said, The Spanish Prisoner is an underrated movie. Wag the Dog is really good. He wrote Hoffa, which was pretty good. So he has made a lot of good movies overall, and of course, when he makes a new movie, I'm right there waiting, because, I think he's a terrific filmmaker and a great writer overall, and this is definitely one of his more underrated films. One you should definitely check out. I highly recommend checking out, I almost forgot the name of the movie, Red Belt.
I don't remember any ruins in Narnia.
I wonder who lived here.
I think we did.
I think it's time we found out what went on here.
Who are you?
I am Prince Caspian.
You may find Narnia a more savage place than you remember.
All that you know is about to change.
So this is a sequel, of course, to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is based off, of course, the C.S. Lewis books. You have the four siblings from the first movie back again. They're returning to Narnia and helping to aid Prince Caspian, played by Ben Barnes, in his struggle for the throne against his corrupt uncle, King Miraz. Miraz being played by Sergio Castellano. I don't remember that name in particular, but a lot of the same people that are back from the first movie are back in this one. From the director, Andrew Adamson, the writers from that first movie are back. A lot of the cast is back from the first movie, even the White Witch, which is really odd and definitely very unnecessary in this particular movie. But, yeah, kind of like what I said before at the beginning, I was never really a fan of the Chronicles of Narnia. To me, this was kind of like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I never got the appeal of it, per se. I mean, I get it. Disney was trying to have their own Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings type of franchise, and it worked with the first film. The second film, not so much. For most of the general public, mostly because of the fact that it's opening up in the summertime. And I think that was one of the biggest problems that a lot of people had with this movie's success at the box office, because it wasn't a flop, per se. But it didn't make as much as the first movie did. And that first movie had the benefit of opening up during the Christmas holiday season, you know. It was the big blockbuster that nobody really saw coming. Everyone was expecting King Kong to just roll all over the holiday season. And then it was Narnia that really took everyone by surprise at how well it did. You're opening up this up right before the summer season is over, just before all the kids are out of school, and especially because you're opening it in the same month as Iron Man, Indiana Jones. You got all these summer blockbusters being crammed into each other one by one. So, yeah, there's going to be some odd men out of this situation. We already talked about Speed Racer last time around. This was definitely another one that kind of got lost in the shuffle overall in terms of the success, in terms of its success rate. Like I said, it wasn't a flop per se. It did end up becoming the 10th highest grossing film of the year. But it did eventually lead to Disney and Walden Media kind of separating from the Narnia films, and the next film was eventually released by 20th Century Fox, which in turn was later brought back over to Disney after, of course, Disney bought Fox. So, you know, it's basically coming full circle. There you go, full circle on the Narnia films. And now the new Narnia films are being produced by Netflix with Greta Gerwig directing it. But anyway, back to this movie in particular, and like I said before, I've never been a fan of these movies in particular. Like I said, the first one I thought was overall decent. But, yeah, this one, it's not bad per se. I mean, it's a competently made movie. It's a film where, yeah, you could tell that they were trying to up the ante a little bit more. But at the same time, though, it definitely felt like a film that was just kind of a contractual obligation sequel because the first movie was such a success. I mean, it was basically the equivalent to why we got a National Treasure 2 the year before, and then, of course, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I mean, they were all successful films, so we got to make a sequel and cram it out there as quickly as we can. And I don't know. To me, it just didn't. I thought this movie would get better over time, and sadly, it's not the case. I don't think this movie has really gotten better over time overall. I think on a technical level, it's still very impressive to look at. On a story level, we've seen this story done before so many times before, and I think to really up the ante here, you gotta elevate it more to what Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings did. Like, Harry Potter matured the characters as they went along with every passing film, and and most of the time they were doing it because the kids were growing up and they were getting into more darker stories. This, I felt like they were trying way too hard to copy the Harry Potter formula to a T. And that's why I think they went with the fourth book in the Chronicle story and the storyline, because this is where the darker elements start to come into play here, and the more mature themes, which were actually polarizing by a lot of critics at the time, who thought that this was unnecessary to add to the mix here. And I felt like this was Disney's kind of answer to Harry Potter, so we can rush out the darker storyline early on here instead of just letting the characters mature over time. Like, the reason why the Harry Potter films worked as well as they did was because the characters evolved and matured as the actors aged and matured, and the darker story started to come into play, and you had a good director in David Yates who can work with the darker material, and that's how the Harry Potter films got to be as good as they were towards the very end with the more darker material. This, I felt like they were trying way too hard to try to get that done much faster, which is very funny considering that, I've always said that, when Disney did the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Warner Brothers was going to try to copy that in half the time with half the effort being put into it. This is kind of like the polar opposite of that. This is like what Disney seeing what Warner Brothers was doing with Harry Potter and saying, we can do this in half the time and make it work just as well. And not exactly. I mean, like I said, it wasn't a flop overall. It did do its numbers overall, but to me personally, these movies are mostly forgettable to me. Like I said, the one that I only liked the most was the first one. After that, I never really got involved with the other two movies in particular. I try to get invested in them, but nothing really happens that makes me want to get more attached to these characters, especially with a character like Aslan, played by Liam Neeson, who really does not do much in these movies until the very end of the fight. I mean, it's just like the characters are literally looking at this tiger and this lion and going like, "Are you gonna do something here?" It's just like, I'll be there eventually. Like, he's like the stoner best friend. Like, he's too busy getting high on drugs or drinking alcohol to actually do something. It's just like do something, man, for God's sakes. It's just like, characters like that don't really age. And like I said, Tilda Swinton as the White Witch feels absolutely pointless in this movie. There was no real reason to bring her back in this movie, except she had just won an Academy Award from Michael Clayton. It's just like, well, we gotta give you a reason to exist in this movie, so come back into this film. And yeah, there's no real purpose to her character being back in this movie whatsoever. And yeah, I wish I had more to say about this film that I could say is actually kind of positive, but really, this thing hasn't really changed much for me since the first time I saw it. I never really got invested in the Chronicles of Narnia films, and yeah, this one is definitely one of the reasons why I wasn't really invested into it. They don't really up the ante. You don't really get invested with the characters. They don't really have any maturity to them, and it feels like they're just doing the same thing all over again, pretty much. So, yeah, so quick thought. So that's my quick thoughts on the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian.
Legend says that a crystal skull was stolen from a mythical lost city in the Amazon, supposedly built out of solid gold, guarded by the living dead. Whoever returns the skull to the city temple will be given control over its power.
You will help us find it. A simple yes will do. So, we will do this old-fashioned way.
Put your hands down, will you? You're embarrassing us. Don't touch anything.
I'd cover my ears if I were you.
I mean, the trailer was great on its own merits. The marketing for this movie did a really good job of selling the film, and it was a success when it came out. It did receive a lot of very good reviews from critics, and it was a financial success. It made over $780 million worldwide. Actually became the highest-grossing film of the series, not adjusted for inflation, but yeah, it's a film that really, really, really is a lot better than a lot of people let on. So, in this movie, this takes place 19 years after The Last Crusade and acknowledges the age of its star Harrison Ford, being set in 1957, where it pays tribute to the science fiction B-movies of the era, pitting Indiana Jones against Soviet agents, one of them led by Cate Blanchett, searching for a telepathic crystal skull. Indiana is aided by his former lover Marion Ravenwood, played by Karen Allen once again, and son Mutt Williams, played by Shia LaBeouf. You also have Ray Winstone, John Hurt, and Jim Broadbent joining in on the ride, and, yeah, this was a movie that was a hit when it came out, but then even as the year was coming to an end, people just started turning on it for no reason whatsoever, calling it the Phantom Menace of the Indiana Jones franchise, which, judging by the logic now, this should be seen as a much better movie than people let on, but nope, they'll continue to praise the hell out of the Phantom Menace, but this movie, toss it to the side. Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, here's why you're wrong on that. Now, don't get me wrong. There are definitely a lot of scenes in this movie that I can't defend. The overabundance of CG, yeah, that's a problem. The pointless Shia LaBeouf role, I'll give you that. The nuking the fridge scene, yeah, that's not a very good scene. I can't even defend that scene, but, you know, how many crazy over-the-top things have happened in other Indiana Jones movies beforehand, and those got a free pass? Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I think it's a better movie than Temple of Doom is. Yeah, come at me. I like Temple of Doom, but it's definitely the low bar for the Indiana Jones movies. It'd be Temple of Doom, Dial of Destiny, this movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Like, it's, to me, the best of the Indiana Jones movies is the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Last Crusade. But, you know, remember, King of the Crystal Skull got a lot of backlash against it, even before it was coming out. First of all, it had been 19 years since the last Indiana Jones movie, and nobody really thought a fourth film was necessary. But more importantly, George Lucas's name became such a menacing figure, a menacing thing in general, after what he did to Star Wars with the prequels, to changing over to the original films. And of course, you know, Guido shot first, that type of stuff. So there's no way the film was going to win over an audience that quickly. And of course, everyone was skeptical of its release. But honestly, like I said, it's not Phantom Menace. This is not anywhere near the Phantom Menace. Is it a perfect movie? Absolutely not. It has a ton of flaws to it, but to fully understand why the movie is not as bad as everyone says it is, let's take a look at the major complaints we've had about this movie. I've talked about this stuff before, but if you're new to this and you haven't seen any of the other videos, sit back and allow me to tell you everything that I feel is wrong about this film. For starters, the overabundance of CG in the film. I mean, yeah, we've seen a ton of movies before and after this movie that have overused the CG, and really, the CG in this really doesn't bother me all that much, especially after Transformers had so much CG the year before. And just to prove the movie has the flaws, obviously the most pointless scene of CG in the film is when you have Shia LaBeouf's Mutt Williams swinging on vines with a ton of monkeys moving around. Like, that was one of the only few CG flaws that I saw with the film in particular. Even when the aliens show up in CG at the end, I didn't think they were that terrible. Yeah, they're generic aliens, but really, we have seen so many generic crappy effects become more praiseworthy, but the aliens here don't get a free pass. I mean, honestly, which leads into the next problem that everyone has with it. And that's the fact that aliens are in the Indiana Jones movies. People were so mad that they were going to have aliens in this movie, but when Watchmen came out a year later and didn't have aliens, just like in the graphic novel, people were complaining, like, why weren't they in there? So it's just like, let me see if I got this straight. You want aliens in those type of movies. Do you want them in there or don't you? And plus, the subtitle of the movie is called The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So obviously, nobody looked at the title and thought to themselves, I wonder if aliens are going to show up in this movie. Crystal Skull literally means extraterrestrial. Go back and look at the scene where Indy and Mutt are talking about God, where Mutt says that God's head does not look like that, and Indy then goes, depends on who your God is. And let that scene explain why that should not be a problem. The film is explaining that it's about a higher power, sort of like the religious elements in the other Indiana Jones movies, such as the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders, and the Holy Grail in The Last Crusade. And then, everyone's biggest problem with the film was that they thought that both Steven Spielberg and George Lucas had no idea what they were doing. Obviously, you people out there forgot that Indiana Jones is supposed to be reminiscent of the old school B movies and action adventure serials of the 40s and 50s. It was clear from the very beginning that both Lucas and Spielberg wanted to make a fun action adventure, just like the other three films did, and it succeeded to me. But not to everybody. Of course, one of the biggest criticizers of all time, South Park, did that episode where they spent the entire episode as basically saying that, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas raped Indiana Jones. And it's just like, I love South Park to death, but that's still one of the worst episodes of it because it literally serves no point. Like, when they did the Free Hat episode a few years prior about, the special effects updates in E.T., they made fun of that with Raiders of the Lost Ark. That made sense. That you can make fun of because, yeah, the CG in the 20th anniversary re-release of E.T. was terrible, and it made sense. Here, there's just nothing funny to say about it. There was nothing clever about it, unlike that episode. It's just, hey, let's just say that they raped Indiana Jones. Why? Because everyone else is saying it's bad, and we don't like it either. It's just like I said, I love South Park. I love it when they go for the dark satirical edge, but that was pushing their boundaries way too much, and it really hurt the ebb and flow of that particular episode. It was like I was really let down by how they presented an episode. But again, you need to keep in mind that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. It really does not deserve all the hate it got. It's a fun action-adventure film. It's got the same quick wit, the action-packed energy that the original films do, and the sense that everybody was on board. They were 100% game for this, and they were having fun with the project. There are a lot of flaws that could have easily been fixed up. But honestly, I will gladly take this movie any day of the week over Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom just has so many things about that movie that I hate more. Kate Capshaw, Ke Kwan's been a great actor, but his performance as Short Round in there was so obnoxious and just not fun whatsoever. I'm glad he's gone on to become a really good actor in the years since then, but that movie still does not hold up well. That's still, to me, the worst of the Indiana Jones movie. But even then, I like that movie. It still has a lot of memorable moments to it. And Dial of Destiny, I would put that right in the middle between Crystal Skull and Temple of Doom. I think that movie is a lot better than people make it out to be. Yeah, the Indiana Jones movies, there really has not been a bad Indiana Jones movie. All 5 films have been of quality in some way, shape, or form. If I'm going to choose the best ones, Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark will always be the echelon of Indiana Jones. But this movie, I thought, was still a lot of fun. I still really enjoyed the hell out of it. I loved it back then. I still enjoy it now. I may be the only one that defends it. So be it. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a movie that I will defend until the day I die. If you go into it with the right mindset and know what you're going into with the other Indiana Jones films, you should have a good time with it. I know I did.
Give me a kiss goodnight. It's the last single girl kiss.
The ultimate single gal, Carrie Bradshaw, will be married to John James Preston come fall.
Should we get you a diamond?
No, just get me a really big closet. After years of living in the city, I assumed that if my friends and I ever got our fairy tale endings, that would be the end of the story. Hello.
Welcome home, baby.
I always knew she'd marry big. You thought that after the second breakup?
Yep.
After the 15th?
Uh-huh. We broke up alive. But real life?
200 people?
Don't you
I
want?
want you. That's what I want.
Always has a twist.
We've got a problem.
I got the call today. I didn't want to hear.
I can't believe I was running around New York thinking I'm finally getting my happy ending. And let the wedding get bigger than big. Have you ever been a personal assistant?
No.
Why'd you move to New York?
To fall in love.
It didn't mean anything. It just happened once.
But my will gets weak.
I'm pregnant.
Oh my God. I think it's about forgiveness. Even if you don't love.
You know me. I don't really believe in marriage. Now, Botox, on the other hand, that works every time.
Dressing up.
The only 2 choices for women, witch and sexy kitten.
Oh, you just said a mouthful there, sister.
sex much? When you're married, you have a different set of priorities.
This one's married and she's not growing a national forest.
Life doesn't always turn out to be your fantasy. That's why you need friendships that are real to get you through it all. And Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after. You know, things don't always happen like this in real life. I just think you should know that now.
So the trailer for it really doesn't look that different from the television series. I mean, it literally looks like a big screen adaptation of the TV show, but the more you delve into this movie and the more you actually see the film, the moment you realize, wow, this is nothing like the movie at all, the TV series at all. So after moving in together in an impossibly beautiful New York apartment, Carrie Bradshaw, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Mr. Big, played by Chris Noth, make a rather arbitrary decision to get married. The wedding itself proves to be anything but a hasty affair. The guest list quickly blossoms from 75 to 200 guests, and Carrie's simple, labelless wedding gown gives way to an enormous creation that will make her look like a gigantic cream puff. An upcoming photo spread in Vogue puts the event, which will take place at the New York Public Library, squarely in the public eye. Meanwhile, Carrie's girlfriend Samantha, the sex pot, Charlotte the sweet naive, and Miranda, the rigid perfectionist, could not be happier. At least they could be happier for Carrie. Charlotte still has the unrealized hope of getting pregnant. Samantha is finding a loving, committed relationship more grueling than she could have imagined, and Miranda unwillingly lets her own unhappiness, created when Steve admits to cheating on her just once, spoil Carrie's. And after a heated encounter with Steve, she happens to spot Mr. Big and tells him he's crazy to get married. She really is only thinking of her own marriage, but her angry remarks gets Mr. Big to thinking. And I guess to the movie's credit, it's not as bad as the second movie. The second movie is absolutely abysmal, but when you watch this movie, it's pretty clear when you watch this film, this was not made by the same people that made this. This doesn't feel like it was made by the same people who made the TV show, because the original Sex and the City TV show was not just about, it was not just about the ladies and their whatever dress they were wearing and the fact that they're so shallow and they're in New York so they feel like they're higher than everybody else. But no. They were characters in the television show. New York City was a character in the television show. Here, it feels like they've regressed everything down to make a safe, marketable movie, which, the more I realize it, the more I'm starting to realize that, HBO shows probably should not be on the big screen, especially if you're trying to go for that safe, marketable audience in general. This has the same problems with the Entourage movie, and I love the show Entourage, and when I saw the movie, I was completely let down by it because it felt like a lot of the same things with the Sex and the City movie. It felt like they were truncating it down, making these characters dumber than they were when the series ended. They weren't the same characters they were when the show ended. They weren't in better places. They really do feel like they've regressed down because the people behind this are afraid to let the characters grow up. And that was the problem with the Entourage movie, and it's definitely here in the Sex and the City movie too. I mean, you could tell the focus on this was, let's make sure we get these ladies the best outfits we can to put them on, and have people go like, oh my god, I love your dress and all that type of stuff. That's what this movie really feels like. It's not made for the people who gave their 6 years to the Sex and the City TV show. This is made for people. I've talked about this type of movie before. This is the type of movie that you get your gal pals out for. You put on your nice dresses, your cocktail dresses, your nice high heel shoes, and you go into a movie theater and you sneak in a bottle of champagne and wine and all that. And you talk about other things besides and you talk about do other things that are not related to the movie you're watching. And then when the movie's over, you get home and your husband's just like, so how was the movie? And you're like, wait, did I see a movie? Like, that's what it really feels like with Sex and the City. At least in the movie, because, yeah, the comedy in here is abysmally bad at times. I mean, it's like the writer of this movie, who was one of the writers on the show, and also the director, Michael Patrick King, it's like that he thought, what's the next direction to take Sex and the City in terms of a big screen movie? How about comedy and jokes that are on the same level of a really bad Adam Sandler movie? That's what this feels like. There's parts in here where they throw in pointless gross out jokes that make no sense. That scene where, what's her name? Samantha is talking to Miranda about, geez, wax much. Like, apparently they decided to show that she never shaves, and there's like a growing like bush underneath whatever. underneath Cynthia Nixon's nether regions, her vagina, if you will. But not only that, but there's a running gag where a dog is literally humping the bejesus out of a pillow, and they don't just do this once. They do it several times all throughout the movie because the movie thinks it's so goddamn funny, and it's not. Like, it's absolutely not funny. It wasn't funny the first time, and it's not funny the 20th time you do it in this movie. And then, let's reinforce in some stereotypes, too. Let's have Jennifer Hudson in her first major movie since winning the Oscar for Dreamgirls. Let's make her the magical, mystical Negro of the movie, because that's exactly what she is. She serves no purpose but to help Sarah Jessica Parker's character, and her character is not well written at all, and it's a waste of a really good actress. And Jennifer Hudson, Candice Bergen is in this movie, and she's completely wasted. Let's take the characters that we love from the show and make them complete assholes for no reason whatsoever, or just make them unlikable and undetestable and have them do things that they never did in the television series. Miranda's husband cheats on her, and the way that they play it in this movie is just so preposterous and so ridiculous, and it infuriated me, this movie, but at times there is still a little bit of the magic that was left in the television series, but at the same time, it's a movie that feels like they're regurgitating something that didn't need to be brought back, and it's a film that doesn't really add anything to it. Like with the Simpsons movie, you could see what they were adding to it. You know, the Bob's Burgers movie. That movie came out, didn't seem like it was really adding anything to it, but it helped make the TV show become something much more. The Bob's Burgers TV show is much better now since the movie came out. Not to say the show was bad to begin with, but the show has been much more entertaining. The stories have gotten much more interesting. The characters evolved after the movie came out. Nobody evolves in these movies. They regress. And if you thought this was bad, wait until you see the second movie. The second movie is the worst at it. But yeah. So, like I said, this is a terrible movie. This is not a very good film, but it's at least trying to be Sex and the City, unlike the sequel. But maybe it just goes to show that HBO shows maybe should not make the jump to the big screen. If they're going to do a Sex and the City movie, do it on HBO. Do it on a network that lets you have as much creative control as you want to. Don't take it to a studio where you have to do what they tell you to do. They have to mandate specific things that you can and can't do, and force them to make the comedy even lazier. Like this isn't even Sex and the City style comedy. Like, this film is a mess of a movie, and I don't know if it's the director or the fact that Darren Star was nowhere near this project, because I think Darren Star was the reason why the show worked as well as it did, because once you took him out of the equation, this franchise just fell off quickly. And it's a bad movie. It's a really terrible film. Avoid Sex and the City like the plague. The movie. TV show, yeah, watch that show. It still holds up after all these years. But so that's Sex and the City. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman in The Strangers.
If I didn't care more than words can say,
I love you, Jimmy.
you're my girl. What is it, like 4 in the morning?
Hello?
You're gonna die.
Speaking of things that probably should have been left alone after the first thing they did, The Strangers. Another movie that a pretty underrated little horror film where you follow a couple played by Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman who stay at a vacation home and is disrupted by 3 masked intruders who infiltrate their home one night. and it's based on a real-life events where you have stuff like the murder-homicide of the Manson family Tate murders, a series of break-ins that occurred in the director Brian Bertino's neighborhood as a child. And some people have even said that there's a lot of similarities to the Kettle Cabin murders that occurred in Kettle, California in '81. But he doesn't cite this as a reference overall. But yeah, it's amazing how this movie still holds up. And it works because of the tension and the atmosphere. I think that really is what carries the film overall. Yeah, it's a generic storyline that's been done before. You know, the home invasion and all that type of stuff. It's been something that's been done before. But a director like Brian Bertino, what he adds to the table with this film is the atmosphere, the cinematography. I think works very well, and that sense of dread and fear. Like you're sitting there, like you're standing there in a room, and you think nobody's behind you, and then all of a sudden you look in the background, and you see this weird-looking thing behind you. I talked about it with the Batman just not too long ago. That great opening shot of the movie where you see the Riddler coming out of nowhere. That's a great jump scare that without having to do the typical jump scare techniques. And in this movie, they definitely do that. I do think these intruders are very threatening. They can come off as cartoonish at times, but their goal is there. Like, they come off as legitimately terrifying at times here. And, yeah, it's a very intense movie, and I think it works very well to those advantages. It even has a great cliffhanger where, somebody finds Liv Tyler's character. They find Liv Tyler's character unconscious, and then the movie ends with her screaming at the top of her lungs, and that's how the movie ends. Like, it's a memory of all the things that have just happened, and that's a perfect way to end that movie in particular. It's like, leave the audience wanting more, but don't necessarily hype up a sequel coming forward, because, let's be honest, anything that's come after this, that's the stuff you can avoid. The sequel that came out 10 years later doesn't even bother to follow the events of this movie. And then, for some reason, Rennie Harlan decided to say, I'm going to do this again, but we're not just going to do a sequel. No. We need to do a trilogy. And guess what? That first film he did was pretty terrible. I mean, but this movie just works on its own. It works on its own merits. It doesn't have to be a franchise film. It's a film that can work with one simple concept, and it works as a standalone film. It works as it is. Like I said, the script overall is kind of a mediocre mess, but the thing that makes it work are the tension-filled scenes, are the scary moments, the atmosphere, the cinematography. I mean, the moments that you will remember forever with that stuff. It's a really entertaining film, and yeah, it's definitely a film with a lot of flaws to it, but it's a film I actually would say I'd recommend checking out. If you want a little bit of a good psychological horror film, this works very well. If the script had been better, this would definitely be up there with some of the better ones. But as it is, it's a good movie. It's one I'd recommend. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here, Danny McBride, starring in The Foot Fist Way.
I just moved to the area, and I was looking for some sort of workout.
What you want is Taekwondo. It's got everything. Mental, physical.
Well, that's good, because when I was in school abroad, I really got into yoga, and that's a lot of breathing techniques and meditation.
Meditation's terrific and all, but never heard of it saving anyone from a gang rape type situation. Meditate on that.
Come on. Your weakness is disgusting to me.
Cry, Mr. Simmons.
Try harder, because right now, you're sucking.
Last August, a film was slipped to Will Ferrell and Adam McKay.
Do you think y'all can handle this? Taekwondo's a deadly serious killing system.
Since then, they have watched it at least 20 times.
It's the best of all martial arts.
I hear jiu-jitsu is really good for balance.
No, jiu-jitsu sucks.
They quote it.
I don't want to say that you're a whore, but right now, your actions and your attitude are very whorish.
They obsess over it.
Hey, everybody.
What are you doing here? Just come back from working out?
No, came from church, you fucking retard.
And now, they want to share it.
Turn that shit off. Track number 3, Julio.
So it begins.
God, I wish I could show you the rest of that trailer because it's so good, but unfortunately, Andrew WK's It's Time to Party, which makes that trailer worth it, is playing in the background, and I know YouTube's copyright laws, so I'm not even going to bother doing it, but look for that trailer. It's a really good trailer. But as you can see, Danny McBride plays an inept Taekwondo instructor struggling with marital troubles and an unhealthy obsession with a fellow Taekwondo enthusiast, Chuck the Truck Wallace. And this was a film that was made before he was seen in Hot Rod, because Hot Rod was the first time I saw him in anything, and he was in a lot of other movies too that came out around that time. But Hot Rod was the first thing I ever saw him in. This was filmed back in 2006, I believe. And you have him, you have Ben Best, who is I think I've seen him somewhere before. He's like a writer musician, but you also see Colette Wolfe, who's been in a lot of other stuff too. And the director of this, and of course him and Danny McBride went on to do Eastbound and Down, which is a great show. And a lot of the elements of what makes that show great are played into this movie. This is a very fun film, a very funny comedy. Danny McBride shows a lot of potential as a leading actor in this movie. He makes it work very well here, and it's a very simple concept. It's a very small-budgeted movie. They were putting this out hoping that it was going to be another Napoleon Dynamite success, and I don't think this is as good as Napoleon Dynamite is, but it's still a really funny movie regardless. It's very in-your-face. It's rated R for a reason, and it's just a ton of fun to watch. I just love the absurdity and the craziness that goes on throughout the course of the film. It's a great movie, man. It's a really, really fun, little underrated gem of a film. If you like comedies like Hot Rod, like these stupid comedies like the Will Ferrell comedies, this is definitely one that deserves to be checked out. It's a really good film. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. One I highly recommend checking out, The Foot Fist Way.